Well, Nate, here we are. I believe it's episode 21, man. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's coming. We're going to have when it's, 52 weeks, like, a little bit of hats on and all that, a year.
What was the date we started? Was
It's
in
got to
the
be,
fall?
I thought it was something like September, the first week in September or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but with me today, of course, is just Nate and I today, but today's kind of I think going to be a special time for our listeners just because it really goes back to really Nate went through a major loss of his mom when he was really young at age 18. Am I right, Nate?
Yep.
Right around that age. And I wanted to take this episode to really dive into that time and just to have people maybe find out a side that they might not have known about you. I mean, I know on Mother's Day, sometimes you'll mention your mom and I know about what went on and from talking to you, but a lot of people to lose somebody that young, and have to go to college and kind of maneuver through what life is like without your mom. I can't imagine that. And so before we go into this, can you share a little bit about your mom, what her life was like before her health challenges that she had and what qualities in her still live on in you? So just tell me about her, man, about who she was. I'm excited to hear about this as well.
Yeah. So I'll just start. I mean, it's impossible to think of my mom without thinking of really the godly woman that she was. Like how her faith, it was the most important thing about her life. And she didn't grow up in the church. Honestly, she didn't grow up in a home, like a Christian home. And so that was something that she came at. I think it was like maybe early high school is kind of where she, put her faith in Jesus. And so it's impossible to talk about her without talking about her faith. But I mean, she was always just there. I mean, she was I can't really remember times where it felt like, man, why isn't my mom closer by, or why isn't she present at, events and things like that? She had a ton of energy. She had a real zeal for life, for people. She was very passionate about just certain things. She was very, very simple. I think that's one of the things that for people that knew my mom, she wasn't flashy. She didn't, she didn't really command everybody else's attention when she walked into a room. She was extremely humble, very engaging. She was very, very personable. She enjoyed just the fellowship of company and others and real relational. So, I mean, that's who she was, just even through, she was, trying to think here. So she would have been probably in her late 30s when she found out she had MS.
Wow.
I think it was sometime maybe around 94, 95.
Was there some symptoms that she started seeing or
Yeah,
you saw?
yeah.
Or?
I mean, there was things that caused her to want to, go get checked out and talk to her doctor. She started dealing with some of the stuff that comes with MS, double vision, numbness, and feet and hands and stuff like that. And so, but who she was, prior to that kind of a diagnosis was exactly who she was even through it, and maybe even more. Her faith only grew in the challenges that, she started to, be faced with. Her faith, it's just that was honestly the anchor that really, held all during the ups and downs of really what was about, I mean, I don't have the exact dates, but probably about 4 years of battling MS. And, there's a lot of people who, they get MS and they live with it for 20, 30, 40 years. They become much more debilitated by it, where maybe they're confined to a wheelchair, and they suffer probably even a lot greater ways than my mom had to. So, Yeah, I mean that's who she was, dude. She was fun. I mean, she was. People loved being around her. Just she was really fun to be around. So
It's funny when you were saying qualities about her. I think you're describing yourself, man.
Well,
Like
appreciate
that. No, you're a lot like your mom.
Yeah.
Those things that you just shared.
Yeah.
This isn't in one of our questions, man. But what's it like even sharing about this right now?
I mean, you would know. I mean, of course, you aren't as long in that season of, what it's like to lose your mom. But I mean, I love talking about her. I do.
When's the last time you talked about her? Like, have you had much opportunities?
I mean, I do. Not like at length, but, especially, the fact that there's people still in my life, like close by, even family, like close by. A lot of Bethany's family knew my mom. So, there'll be memories or things that come up, or we'll come across a picture or something. And so, I mean, I love to talk about her.
Yeah.
I know at times when people lose someone in their life, maybe it could be a child, it could be a sibling, it could be a spouse. The difficulty is like, getting to that point where you can like remember them and talk about them. And, we know this, like grief comes in major waves.
Yeah, it does.
I was trying to think about it. I think it's been almost like 27 years. 27 years since she passed away.
Yeah.
So, but yet there's still days where you're kind of like overcome by a thought or emotion, a song.
Yeah.
I remember
a few Mother's Day ago, you got up there and you had to really like hold yourself from
pull it together.
And I was thinking you like that waves idea that does happen, man, at random times.
It was, I feel like it was this last fall, probably in September or something. We were in the car and I think I'd plugged my phone in and there was a song that came on my phone, and it was a song that just like made me remember my mom. And I think we were in the McDonald's driveway up in Romeo, and I was like pretty overcome. Like I wasn't like prepared for that. So of course we're sitting in the drive-thru at McDonald's getting the kids food or something, and Bethany looks over and, of course she's like, are you okay? And even to say what like brought that on was, it was tough just because it was a song. Like you just never know what it's going to be, a memory, a song, a thought, a picture.
Yeah, the other day I saw a picture of my mom on the last Mother's Day before she passed. We were at Cracker Barrel. I don't like Cracker Barrel, but she loved it. We were there. And she was so happy that we came for Mother's Day, that it was her best day that she had.
Yeah.
And dude, I just started crying the other day, and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I do. I mean, I love talking about her, especially to people who knew her.
Yeah.
Because then you keep her legacy, alive. And, you just know that when people met her, they were going to be blessed because of, the kind of connection and the friendship, or just even just the short moments that they get to spend, with her, to see her faith. So
that's awesome. How did watching your mom like live with MS shape your understanding of resilience and empathy, especially at such a young age? Like, how did that affect you? What did that do in your life?
What's kind of interesting is there was a lot of times where you don't like wake up in the morning and like have that be like the first thing that you think about is like, oh, she's got MS. She never identified herself, by that disease. Honestly, for the 4 or 5 years that she lived with it, there would have been a lot of times, especially, in the first couple of years, where like you'd forget until she had a doctor's appointment or had to, get something checked up, or until, she never, seriously, she never complained. So it wasn't, even if she was like, this numbness in her hands and feet, like where, it would affect the way she walked or the things that she could like pick up or touch. I think I've told you this story before. My mom, I think one of I knew she was tough. She raised, 4 children. Actually, we had a brother that passed away when he was a baby, but, I mean, so she was tough. She had 3 boys and a daughter. And yet I think one of the times where I realized how like physically tough she was, I think it was the winter before she passed away. We would typically, we'd go to church in about 2 or 3 or 4 different vehicles. Like maybe my older brother had to drive, I'd maybe drive, and then my mom would come sometimes with my little brother or sister or, whoever. But the one day she was going to drive herself to church because I think the rest of us were there. And our church was big enough where, it'd be easy enough to like just, if you didn't see a family member there before or after service, it was a big enough church where it's like, oh, you just must have missed them. So this one day church got over and we're like trying to figure out like, where's mom? Like pretty much everybody left. Her car's not in the parking lot. And so we're calling home. This is like before cell phones, really. Calling the house, no answer. So then I can't remember who it was, but we all kind of just headed home. And sure enough, her car's back at the house. Go inside and she's sitting in the bathtub upstairs in our house in her dress that she had wore to church that day with her wrist up on like the edge of the bathtub, sitting in like water with her dress on. And her wrist, she'd broken her wrist.
Oh my goodness.
She'd come to church that morning. On her way to the door, she'd actually slipped on some ice and fallen. And she was kind of embarrassed a little bit, I'm sure. And so she just like got herself up, got back in the car and drove home, and then got in the bathtub and was just going to wait for us to come home. Didn't tell anyone. So of course then she had to go to the hospital. She had really broken her wrist. And so, I mean, she was tough. But again, it wasn't like a badge she wore. She didn't, complain. She wasn't, that kind of a person.
That's probably hard to see her in the bathtub like that. Like in that moment, as much as you look at her being tough, like seeing her that,
but the longer it went on,
like she didn't want to be a burden for you guys. It's either she like,
and it never would have been.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't for my dad. It wasn't for us, of course. Like the longer it went on, I mean, the more like some of it affected just like physically, like the heat of the summer would affect, what she was able to do. But she'd still try to, be as present as possible. But again, it was ultimately, some of the double vision, numbness, the lesions that come with that.
wow.
And so she had a brain surgery. And then the day after she'd had her brain surgery, she was waiting in the hospital and actually had a blood clot that moved from her leg to her lung. And that's actually what she passed away from. But I mean, it gives you a whole other kind of just empathy and respect for people that have to struggle with those kind of,
I watch you when you're dealing with people that are dealing with death, and you're so good at it. Like, and I believe like when my mom died, like I had a different understanding of that, but I watch you, Nate, and it's like you have so much compassion. I think I wonder if sometimes even going through what you did prepared you for how to love people in some of the worst of times.
It does. I mean, when you go through that kind of a level of grief, I think for us, we were fortunate because we're part of a great church community, a great community up in Traverse City, that really, they didn't run from us, they ran to us. And, we're there, we're present. And of course that shaped a lot of like how today, I respond when times like that come up, and we're able to bring comfort, to people, in their own times of loss. But yeah, I mean, that had a significant part on it. No doubt about it.
Yeah. What was the most difficult part of losing your mom when you were just 18, and how did your grief evolve over time?
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about that question, personally, I don't really remember how it affected me, besides like really being affected by the way it affected other people. You know, I don't even know why. Like when I think back on it, I think I always knew we were going to get through it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, God was going to, you know, give us the strength as a family to pull together. We had some incredible, again, people and our pastors at our church that were there, and, you know, would just, I mean, people would just kind of show up to encourage us at different times. But honestly, probably one of the things that hurt the most was just seeing the way that her loss really affected others. Of course, like my dad, I mean, who wants to lose a spouse? I think my dad was probably 45, somewhere like actually the age I am today. So I try to imagine what that would be like. But then just the way it affected like each one of my siblings, the way it affected like my mom's family, like her dad, her siblings, and then ultimately just, I mean, truly her loss, when she passed away, it affected like kind of like the whole community of Traverse City.
Yeah.
And Traverse City was different back then. You know, and again, my mom, it wasn't like she was like a local celebrity, but I mean, people knew her.
Yeah.
From us being in the schools, from her sitting with people on the sidelines of sporting events. And at such a young age, I mean, that affected people a lot. And to see, like, you know, people, the way that they grieved, and even just my mom's friends, our close family friends, the way that the pain and the grief hit them, that's what I remember, honestly, more than I even remember what it felt like myself when that happened.
So you're 18. So are you just now graduating, or were
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So that was,
did you graduate and then you're going to IW, or what? How did that kind of fit?
so she passed away in April, April 22nd of 1999.
So you're already planning to go to IW at that time? And all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So then, you know, in April, of course, I graduated like 2 months later from high school, you know, in June, whenever, you know, in that season, you know, had a graduation party and stuff like, so all of that would have been like some firsts for us as a family, even, just, you know, without her being there. So those were emotional times and stuff. But yeah, preparing that summer, of course, to go to Indiana Wesleyan to play soccer there. I can remember, honestly, the day I left to go to school, that was a really, really, a real difficult day, like emotionally, just feeling like I was like, you know, at this point now leaving my dad behind, leaving my little brother behind. And yet, you know, God was, he was right in all of that. I mean, the drive from Traverse City to Indiana Wesleyan, it wasn't, you know, a real fun drive. I mean, I can remember probably multiple times in the car that day, just crying, you know, just emotional. But yeah, it truly is, as I think back on it, I mean, it was a huge loss for our family, huge loss for me, of course, as like a son. But really seeing the impact of her loss in like so many other people, hundreds and hundreds of people's lives, not just even in Traverse City. I mean, her life had touched the lives of a lot of people in other places, other states that we had been, that my dad had served as a pastor at different churches. And, you know, when this is before social media. So like as news started spreading, just hearing from different people about the way that, you know, her life, her love, her faith impacted people, you know, that's really what I remember most. Even as an 18-year-old, I mean, you know, you can easily get real consumed with yourself, you know, when you're 18, but that's what I remember as I think back on it. So,
wow. Did your faith play a role during your mom's illness or after her passing, and how did it change, or how was it affected at all, would you say? I'm even looking too, like you're going to college, you just deal with this major challenge of your mom passing, you can't call her. Like, I can't imagine, man, because that was hard the first time with me when I couldn't call my mom or make a how was your faith like impacted by that?
I would say honestly, I mean, my faith played a huge part in it. It shaped me. It caused my faith to, become even stronger. But I mean, that was the anchor for me. This is a storm. This is bigger than like just a minor storm in your life, a small little thing that goes on. So it really caused me to really lean into, the Lord, and to really trust him, even when, you won't, naturally you're going to ask like why, and all those kinds of questions. And yet, if I professed even at that age to be, somebody who trusted Jesus and had put my faith in him, then, I had to actually back that up.
Were you studying right during that time too to go into ministry, or did you not declare that yet? Like, what was the plan? I was just curious on that.
I mean, I knew I was going. I knew that was the call on my life. I knew that was the path.
Did you start off with that call, or did you?
No, I didn't. You know
Okay.
what? I actually, my freshman year, I kind of had decided I was going to be an elementary teacher, and part of that was, I mean, my mom, of course, would have been thrilled if I had, said I was going to go to go to school to study to be a pastor. But my mom always thought I'd be a really great like kindergarten teacher, elementary teacher. And so, that's actually the kind of the path that I started on at Indiana Wesleyan, even though I never took any kind of educational classes. That was the major I think I first had declared. But then changed it because I knew that's not really what God wanted for me. Yeah. And thankfully so, because I've tried to work in my kids' classrooms at this school, and I'm just like walk away after like an hour or two, and it's like, wow.
I'm surprised you're so good. You're so good with kids, though, dude. So I'm surprised.
Just for short spurts of time.
So how has being a father yourself helped process the loss of your mom, and are there moments when you feel her presence in your parenting even?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the way that I would answer that is, like I think about where, I guess like Hadley's at now. I mean, Hadley's pretty much like the age I was when my mom died. And, it's, you gotta take every opportunity that you're given to, to pour into your kids, to not waste moments, to, make sure that they, they know what's important in life. I mean, all those kinds of things, because that's what my mom did. I mean, that's the example that she set was, we knew that Jesus was the most important thing in her life, most important person in her life, her faith was. And then we came second behind that. And so, I want my kids to know how much I love them, that I would do absolutely anything for them. And so, are there points where I feel like her presence? I mean, it's a lot of it for me is like, she was so patient and, and that was something that I kind of just identify with, I mean, she was just a gracious, very gracious kind of person. And I want to be that. Like, I can't be that for someone else, if I'm not even that for my own family, if I'm not patient, if I'm not gracious, if I'm not empathetic towards the things that are going on in their life. I mean, who am I to go out and try to be that for somebody else? So, and that's what we saw. Who my mom was at home was who she was in the community, was who she was when she came, in contact with a perfect stranger. And so that's for me a lot of like what I saw modeled, and that's what I desire in my own life. So
yeah, it's neat seeing you and Bethany as just as parents, like just the way that you love on your kids and the relationships that you have. I bet you that your mom's influence is some of the reasons why your family is the way that it is today. Because honestly, and one thing I love about you and Bethany, and I know it's taken away from what we're talking about right now, is that you're just a really real family that deal with things, and you love your kids well. And I even watched your wife the other day, just the way she was loving on her daughter's friends and all that tea event. And I was just thinking, what a cool mom, what a cool family that your kids get the privilege of just being a part of. And I just think you do a great job, man.
I mean, that's one of the things for us. I mean, now that you brought that up is, I mean, Bethany had herself an incredible mom, you know, that modeled, you know, her faith and what it was to love her family well. And so Bethany's mom does that extremely well. And then also, I mean, one of the privileges as, you know, a son was that Bethany actually, I mean, she knew my mom. My mom loved Bethany.
Yeah.
And Bethany was very, very dear. Just very special to my mom. So, you know, in saying that, like, it would be, life would be a little different if, you know, Bethany never got to meet my mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we're far from perfect. I mean, when it comes to parenting, but we want to, you know, we want to love our kids well, and we want to, you know, because of the way that God has loved us and been so kind and gracious and forgiving towards us, like we want to, you know, respond in the same way as far as our kids and other people. So
yeah. You know, when your mom passed, I remember this story, like you like really liked Bethany, and I'm just going to pick on you a little bit, change it up here. You used to carry a picture with her, even though she wasn't your girlfriend, right?
that's right.
And you actually told people it was your girl, right? So we're going to let everybody know that, right? That happened. Am I correct?
That's right.
All right. But when your mom passed, you and Bethany had like the first time where you guys really, am I right on that?
Yeah.
Or had like a really chance where you guys really started like talking more kind of serious from that. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
Do I remember that story right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This was a season, I mean, it was through, you know, my mom's passing that, like, in that season, that's where God really kind of brought her and I together. I mean, we didn't start dating like right away or anything like that, but
even though you told everybody you were, right?
yeah. I mean, I'd been saying that pretty much since like 6th, 7th grade, pretty much. But honestly, that God used Bethany in a big way. I mean, she was really there for me, and you know, God just opened up a new kind of you know, kind of connection and relationship that her and I had, partly because, I mean, Bethany loved my mom. I mean, and so she could, you know, relate or identify with the kind of pain that, you know, I was feeling, because she herself even felt you know, a lot of grief over, you know, my mom's passing. So
yeah. This next one kind of just relates with who you are, this next question, but you're known for giving freely, your time, your support, even cash in your wallet. I always share about that, about how giving you are. Do you see that generosity as connected with your mom at all? Like, was that kind of who she was? Do you think there's a connection in that, or?
I mean, yeah, like my parents modeled that. You know, they were extremely, I mean, we didn't have a lot to give, I would say, you know, but what they did, you know, they lived very open-handedly. And, you know, a lot of the time, you know, giving freely of your time. My mom, I mean, we'll sit around a lot of times, like my siblings and I, just talking about people that my mom would like welcome into our house, or, you know, we'd be walking around, you know, town when we lived out in Buffalo, Wyoming, and there were certain people that were just like, they would gravitate towards her. And in a lot of ways, you know, most people would probably like cross the street just so they didn't have to like walk past those people. And yet, I mean, my mom, in her compassion and in her, you know, empathy, like she would just go to them and try to minister to them and stop and pause and spend time with them. And man, we've got some stories just of like being one of them. My mom, for some reason, she connected with this guy Arthur out in Buffalo, Wyoming, and we had an event at the church one day, and he was there, and Don't ask me why, but I mean, this guy he was special, and he chased us around like the fellowship hall that day with a butter knife. Like we thought, I think it was just me and my brothers, but I mean, we were actually running away from this guy, and yet, it's just one of the people that like God put in her path, and she would do whatever she could to try to, like minister and love and care for this guy. I mean, but we've got stories that just go on and on. Like she was known not just by other, people that attended our church or mothers or people like I mean, no matter where we lived, all different kinds of groups and classes of people, would
Was she
know
like
who she
super
was.
outgoing, like talk to everybody type of personality, or just
Yeah,
kind of
she
like-
wasn't afraid, dude. She wasn't
Yeah.
afraid to just talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a homeless person on the street. It could be, somebody that was just distraught, that had a lot going on. Like she would run to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, that was just the kind of spirit that she had. Like she loved to, connect and be with those kind of people. So.
When were there people or moments in the aftermath of your loss that made a difference? Who helped you feel seen? Was there anybody like that?
Yeah, there was. As I think about it, like the actual day of like my mom's death, she passed away in the hospital up in Traverse City, and I can remember I think my little brother and I, we were going to school. We ended up going up the hospital, not realizing that she was already like almost gone. And we got up there and, found out basically the news that she had passed away. We ended up in like some room in the hospital. And before, it's like before you even like imagine like how could somebody else have gotten there so quickly. A couple of our pastors from our church were there. My youth pastor, John, he was right there. And he's kind of the one who, through that next, few months, especially before I left for college, like he was always checking on me. I was always like with him, near him. And then also just our good family friends, like, they didn't let us like pull away and, try to live in some kind of isolation. I mean, they were constantly, there for us, checking on us, stopping by. And that's really what made the difference is our church community back home. I mean, I don't know, just don't know really where we would have been if we didn't have that.
Was it something that they said, Nate, that was significant, or was it them being there?
It's more just people being there. It really is. I mean, as well as I do that you're not going to be able to find the right words. And the deeper the level of pain, I think the fewer words that really need to be spoken in those kinds of times. It's like show up and, I hate to even say it, but like show up and just shut up and just be there. Like, I think when we talk about like times of grief and being with families that are grieving, like you feel this weight of responsibility that you're supposed to say something, and yet that's not really what people need. People just need to know that like somebody's going to be there with them. They're seen, they're not forgotten about. They're not going to have to go through this alone. And so it was not ever as much like that somebody like said something specific. It was just people's willingness to, kind of like sit in those, like sad, moments of grief and to not, always feel like they're going to try to fix it by what they say or like they're going to give you something and that's going to like make it all better. When we fall into that kind of stuff, I think that's really, really where we miss out.
I think it's good for everybody to like hear that, because I do think it's not, sometimes when you talk, man, you can ruin it. But if you just show them that you love them, hug them, be there, they see you, they remember you're there,
100%.
like, so
Yeah.
I think we're on number 9 here, Nate, but how do you honor your mom's memory now through transitions, quiet moments, or ways you just show up for others? How does that work for you?
I mean, really for me, we never like she's never been forgotten. And
Yeah.
and I was trying to think about it a little bit as I was thinking about, just talking about grief and trying to like share like even how I've processed it. Like we've never, done any kind of like tradition thing, especially because I've really never lived back in Traverse City, like where
You guys moved
she's
a lot of
buried and
different
stuff like
places.
that.
You guys were all over.
Of course, my dad's still up there. My sister's somewhat in the area, but we've kind of all been like in our own separate places. We tend to talk about her like when we get together. That's one of the things that like we haven't stopped doing, like in a way of trying to honor her legacy. Like when we're together as a family, we try to talk about her. If there's things that I can share with my kids that she did or said or moments, like I'll try to do that. But honestly, the thing that I'm most, I guess like passionate about is just carrying on her legacy. Like she was special, dude. And like, of course, everybody that has a mom, you'd like to think that they would say something like that, but she was just different, dude.
Yeah.
So, I want to live her legacy. Like I want to carry on like the compassion, like to hold on to the empathy, the kindness, because even when she was, suffering, she was thinking about other people. And her faith is what really carried her through. Like, and that's kind of the motto for me. It's like, if just even looking over like in her Bible and stuff, to see some of the stuff that she wrote in her Bible when she was going through some of like the darkest days of her illness. It's like, how can you even say that like about God, or how can you even still hold on to that promise or that truth when, she had just received not good news.
Yeah.
And yet she never wavered. It was just like, she was consistent. That's who she was. And, I'd like to think that that's going to be who I am. I'm going to carry that on. And, so
who has her Bible? Do you have her Bible?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of them.
Yeah.
I have the one that like was probably the last one that she really used. And there's all kinds of pictures and little notes with dates and journal stuff in there. And so that's a very special.
How often do you look at that? Do you look at different times, or?
Probably, I might pull it out maybe a couple times a year, or 2 or 3 times a year, just to look at it. So yeah, that's a gift. I honestly don't remember how I ended up with it, but
many people that have that kind of opportunity to their Bible. That's beautiful, man, to have you process that. How did your mom, with battling with MS, influence your views on health and caregiving, or just the importance of life?
Yeah, you and I both know. Anybody that's listening, I'm sure, hopefully realizes this. Life is fragile and it's short. And if you're given, 70 or 80 or 90 years, like that's still short. So to think that my mom lived for, almost 44 years, 43 years and like 9 months. I've outlived her now. And actually, one of the wildest things was the point where like you get to this point in your life where you've actually lived like longer without her than you did with her. And then you look back and it's like, how have I gotten this far without her?
Yeah.
You think I think one of the things that you have to really kind of resist is like the thought of like, what would life be like with her? Because that's just not the reality. And I think you can sit in like this moment of, life would be so much better or so much different. Like we don't know what life would be like if she would have continued to live on. But in all of that, it gives you a appreciation for people who care for those who, maybe have long-term illnesses. But it's ultimately just a reminder, like, you can't waste days, man. You can't waste like seasons of life, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And, and I think even before my mom passed away, right before, I think it was like the day before, we had gotten some news from the doctor that they'd said something like, without her having the surgery that she had, she maybe only had like 3 to 6 months to live. And then you like try to process that. You try to like kind of come to grips with that. And then ultimately it's the next day. Like, that's when God chose to take her, to be with him. So every day's important. Life is fragile. So we just got to make the most of it.
People always say too, and like, even when you know that your loved one's going to die, it still feels like it,
there's
no, even if you're told that, would you say that that's true?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it is, even when it's not somebody that's even that close to you, like there's no way to prepare for the moment that somebody that you love is gone. Like, and the kind of like the weight of grief that hits you like in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, no amount of time or prep or like you knew it was going to come. Nothing can prepare you for that.
Yeah.
So
what's something people often misunderstand about losing a parent so young? What do you think that they misunderstand about that?
I would say that people often probably assume that time is going to take care of like the grief, the way that you feel like the loss of somebody. So it's really like, for me, it was trying to come to grips with like, how am I going to actually like get by without her? Like, how are we going to get through like every moment? Because like every time you celebrate something for the first time without that person, I mean, those are moments where you can, you can just forget how difficult it is for a family that's lost someone. Like the first time they're going to have Christmas without them, the first birthday, the first, anniversary of their passing, all those kinds of things. But I think the thing that people, I think, miss out on is you fall into this like belief that, well, it's going to get easier as time goes by. And yet, I mean, it's more bearable. But like when you stop to actually start thinking about that person again, I mean, it can be there's a heaviness that comes with that. So
one of the, the crazy, I didn't know that about your mom until like later on, I think it was like probably probably 2 years into school. I think you and you probably don't remember, but I remember you saying about your mom, and I was like, we never would have known it. But like going to college, isn't on there, but like, I know that you said Kyle Brown was a significant part of your life, like, and stuff like that. Can you share a little bit about it? I just think it'd be powerful to share that, just how God kind of worked in you and the challenges and stuff like that.
I mean, I'll say this, like, so when I went to school my freshman year, I like all through high school, I mean, I spent every Friday night probably with my parents. Like, that's just not because, I had like this thought, like, what if something happens to my mom? I need to spend every Friday night, that's just how I was.
That's awesome, how your family kind of is too.
And so, that doing that, I stayed away from a lot of the stuff that maybe others were, stepping into in high school. And then I got to Indiana Wesleyan, and there was like a freedom that kind of came with like being away from home, in my own kind of time of like trying to figure out what direction I was going to go, just simply because of, losing my mom, some of the ways that things had gone. I kind of found myself for a few months at least, or maybe my whole freshman year, just like not making always like the best decisions. Kind of just getting myself into some stuff that like I'd never really dealt with in high school. And so in that, like God put Kyle into my life, brought Kyle into my life. Like, we knew each other my freshman year. And I feel like he knew the call that was upon my life. I think I'd shared that with him at one point. But for as much as like some of my buddies lived in the same like apartment place he was in, it wasn't like him and I were hanging out or anything. And quite honestly, I knew he probably didn't approve of a lot of the stuff that me and some of the guys were up to those days. But in saying all that, like, towards the end of my freshman year, he had actually, kind of started trying to just get to know me a little bit more. He was 2 years ahead of me. So then when I came back to school my sophomore year, he was like one of the first people that I actually saw when he got on campus. And I remember he just told me, he's like, you and I are going to spend a lot of time this year together. I kind of felt like he was telling me I was going to be like his project a little bit. Like, and truly from pretty much like the first day on campus that semester in the fall of my sophomore, and it was his senior year, like we were like literally inseparable. It doesn't even make sense. Like, as I think back on it, don't bring up some of the other stuff.
No, but I'm saying like you guys were, dude, you guys are boys, man.
Yeah.
I remember thinking you guys were best friends forever when you guys would hang out.
Which is so, like, I can't even remember like the beginning of it, like why he would even want to like spend time with me, but it came so naturally, and he was older than me. And yet, I mean, like we were always together. If we weren't in class, we were playing basketball together. If I wasn't on a soccer trip or something, we're just like we were always together. And he was pouring his life into me, dude. Like,
I think the Lord just put, the reason why I brought it up was just like, I remember that. I think that's the way of God just showing his blessing in that time to bring someone in your life. And I think God does that, man. He brings somebody in your life.
Yeah.
It's a significant time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can say this very honestly. I don't know if I'd be in ministry today if it weren't for Kyle. I mean, that's the truth. If I wouldn't have had him really like step in and kind of take me under his wing, I don't know where things would have gone. I really don't. So yeah, and he was, I mean, it was a godsend for me. Yeah,
I think God does things through that, even some of the toughest times, you know?
Yeah.
How has your experience really shaped the way you support others going through loss or hardship? Like, how does it help you help others?
It all comes back, Nate, to until you've experienced like a great loss, it's so hard to know how to like minister or comfort somebody else in their own loss, like their own time of loss. I think for me though, really experiencing, and it was my, it was what happened with us. Like, people ran to us. I mean, when somebody that's 43 dies, that is like tragic. It's, it's like a shock in every way. You don't really want to be there. I mean, I just don't know how else to say it. Like, you don't really want to be there in those kinds of times, simply because the pain is so raw. It's so deep. What are you going to do in that situation? And yet people weren't afraid of it. My youth pastor, our other pastors, like our close friends. Like, I mean, I can remember, I think like Bethany's family, they came right up to Travers. Like, like, you just don't, I mean, it's like, if there's a fire, you want to run away from it. If there's like a tragedy, why would people run to it other than to allow the comfort that God has given to them to be real in that moment as they comfort you? And so that's always been the thing with me, man. If people call and if they're asking for you to be in like a moment of like loss or pain, or somebody's about to die, I can't ever remember a time where I've said no. I mean, I will rearrange everything that I possibly can to be there, because those are the most significant moments where if they're gonna like open that door, and if God is gonna allow you to step in, there's really, I mean, there's no greater time to be Jesus to somebody than in those kinds of moments, like to bring that comfort into those kinds of moments.
I remember Gary Beecher, part of this church a long time ago. I remember someone telling me it was probably about a few weeks ago that he came to the hospital and he just stayed there all day. And that because of that, like they'll never forget that person was there, just sitting there with them. And they talked about the fact that he was just there all day, got food with them, ate with them. And I was like, that was more significant than any message that someone preached or any, I was like, and because of that, they love that guy like no one they've ever loved, you know what I mean? But it's so true. So if you could speak, this is kind of an interesting question, Nate, but if you could speak to your 18-year-old self, the one just after your mom passed, what would you say or to offer comfort or hope to that kid that your age at that time?
I mean, I'd probably say in just, like, even as hard as it would be to say, like, that the depth of the pain that you feel, like in that moment is not going to be wasted, that God actually has a purpose for that. I'm big on talking about the fact that the only thing that all of us share in common is pain. You've been around the world, I've been around the world, and a lot of people don't have like even the like resources, the things that we have, the things that we've accumulated. So not everybody has that, but everybody in life has experienced pain. So that then kind of becomes the currency that God entrusts to us or gives to us. So we have to be good stewards of that. Are we going to allow the pain that we go through to be wasted? Or are we going to allow God to use that to spend that on other people, to comfort other people? It's just 1 Corinthians really all over. Like, if God should choose to give you his comfort in a time where you need his comfort, then he gives it to you so that when somebody else needs that comfort, and he comforted us through the people I've been talking about, my youth pastor, other pastors, our family friends. So if God comforted us through them, then we have to do the same then in return, is that when other people need God's comfort, we have to comfort them. And that's where we don't allow that pain that we've gone through to be wasted. So it's all had a purpose, dude. It really has. The more I live, honestly, the more I see that. Like, there's still people today who are impacted by my mom's legacy, the people that knew her. There were people that came to know Jesus because of, like, through my mom's death, there were people that came to know Jesus through that. And so, I mean, that's all just part of the plan that God had. That's all part of the purpose. So that's probably what I'd say.
In what ways has your journey through grief shaped the man and father that you'd say you are today?
I would say probably mostly like, I want to be present. Like, I want to be present for everything. I don't want to miss, moments with my family, just simply because you just don't know how many you have. I can remember my mom, I think it was, I know it was my senior year in high school. Like, she tried to be as present as she could in every, thing we had going on, any activities. I can remember I drove her down to watch one of Sam's performances or plays or something he was in at Indiana Wesleyan because she wanted to be there. She found a way. My last high school soccer game was up in Marquette, which is just miserable up there, dude. And this was like probably mid to late October, and there was, I think, like 6 inches of snow, and she was so worried about going, and yet she went. Like, she didn't let, like, the fact that there was going to be snow up in the UP stop her. She was there. And so I can remember, like, when I'm walking off the field crying because we lost our, this is my final high school soccer game. Like she was right there.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to waste moments. I want to be present as much as I can. I want to be as gracious and forgiving and compassionate and empathetic, with my family, with my kids, and then allow that to just be really the example that I'm, setting for them. So
what's it like, Nate? Just kind of as we're closing this time, just even talking about this, like probably like really doing a deeper dive into it. What's that like for you? Like,
it's good, man. It reminds me of how important it is to be there for people. Reminds me of how important it is, when your life is over, you'll either leave a legacy that others will want to pick up and carry, or you'll be forgotten about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we've both probably done funerals for people that very quickly, those people unfortunately are going to be forgotten about because they didn't make a difference. They didn't really allow their light to shine the way that it should have when they were on this earth. Like, I don't want to be forgotten about when my life is over. My hope is that, 26 years after, I'm gone, my kids are still talking about me. It's the example that I've set that they want to continue to, live in, and to be even greater. Like, that's it. I mean, I want my kids to, be even greater, to have an even greater impact on this earth than I ever do. But yeah, I'm reminded like of the importance of not wasting time, just being present, being at, everything that you possibly can. It doesn't always work out to always be there, but if you can, you should. And that's really, I think, one of the things I learned from my mom was like, don't waste any time that you have. So.
Well, Nate, I appreciate you like sharing about your mom. And I think just for everybody who's like listening, including myself, like it's going to really touch people's lives just to hear this. And I'm glad that you had a mom. I was thinking of one of the guys in our church that I'm really close to. He didn't have a ton of great interactions with his mom, but he would love to have the opportunity, even if it was 43 years, to have that kind of relationship that you had with your mom. And that's not taken away of wanting it to be longer, but it's like that. It just reminded me that you were blessed to have that relationship with your mom, even though it was a shorter time than you wanted. And I just know that it's really going to touch people. And I want to just let you guys know as we close this out that next week we're going to be talking about our upcoming series. One of the things that Nate and I have like learned from talking to people was that when we talk through the message, sometimes they would rather have us not do that because I already talked about it Sunday. So we're kind of changing our gears to just talk about the upcoming series we're going into and kind of hitting like a broad look at it, going into that once a month. So we'll be doing that next week. And we got some awesome events coming up at Stoney, some really neat things coming up that we want you guys to be involved in. You'll be hearing a lot of men's and women's events coming up. And then just to tell you, we'd love you to join our church. We have great services at 9 and 11, and God's been really working. Even this past week is kind of cool. My boy had an opportunity to speak, and Kendall led worship. It was like a younger generation kind of leading the charge, and it was very, very cool. We encourage you to share this podcast with your friends, press follow, subscribe on either Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or YouTube. And this is just, I want to encourage you, when these things go out and people get it, it impacts people, especially even a story like this. When you deal with loss and this gets shared, it impacts somebody because it's a real life story of what Nate went through when he was 18. So Nate, if you could, to kind of close us out, to just pray for our listeners and encourage them from someone who might be even experiencing a loss now, or someone who knows that they're about to lose someone they love, and just the whole journey of this, and just pray your blessing and your encouragement upon them right now.
Yeah. Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you that, God, you even modeled what grief is. We know that in the Bible, it even talks about how as you went around and ministered, that you wept with others, and that you came alongside others in their time of grief. And I just thank you, Lord, today for the ways that you have brought me through and my family through, just the things that we've gone through over the years. Ultimately, the season of grief that began back in 1999. God, we know that you have had a purpose and a plan, and even still today, it's unfolding. God, you know the hearts of those who will listen to this podcast, and you know if they're in a season of grief, if they are, about to go into a season of grief. And Lord, I just pray that you draw near to them. Lord, I pray the same thing that, we received in the comfort of, friends in the church. Lord, I pray that they would have that same, response, that there would be people that would not run away from them, just simply because maybe they don't know what to say, but Lord, that they would run to them and that their presence would bring comfort and healing. Lord, I thank you, God, ultimately, that you are the one who gives all comfort. In our times of need, in our times of grief, you give us that comfort through the comfort of others, so that when we've experienced that, we get to turn around and give that to others. So Lord, if we've been comforted, then Lord, I pray that we would find others, God, in our lives, in our communities, that we would be able to, stop and slow down and spend time with, ultimately to bring hope, to bring comfort, and to bring peace. God, as you would, work through us, Lord. So bless the church, and God, continue to walk with us each and every day. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We're so glad that you're here.
If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with a friend and help grow our podcast community.
We'd love to see you this Sunday at Stoney Church, services at 9 or 11 a.m.
We're dropping the next episode next Wednesday at 12 noon.
Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.
Join us then, and until next time, stay inspired.
And see you soon.